All right. Hi, everybody. It's John Martin, trial attorney from the KJC Law Firm in Boston and Worcester again. And with me is Shelly MacNeill. Hi, Shelly.
Hi, John.
Can you tell everybody what you do for work?
So I am Senator Michael Moore's Chief of Staff, and he represents the 2nd Worcester District.
Okay. And then you also have another job. Is that right?
Yep. So I'm also the chair of the Stoneham Select Board,
So those are
which is the town I live in.
okay. So kind of serving constituents and elected officials, both for the senator and for the select board in the town of Stoneham.
Yep.
Are you doing those both remotely now? Or are you going to work, or what's happening?
Nope, both remote. I haven't been back to the office since March 12th. That was sort of the day we decided that we were not going to be having our staff come into the building anymore in Boston. We had made arrangements for that following week to do sort of a skeleton crew, one person in the office, just sort of try to maintain social distancing.
Mm-hmm.
And then that Friday, we just decided, you know what, we were getting more and more information, and we opted to just send everybody remote. And then by the following week, pretty much everybody had made that decision. People were only going into the building if they had to. Right. And we also did our first select board meeting remote that following week as well.
How did that go?
Surprisingly well. There's challenges, obviously. You've got different people with different technology knowledge.
Sure.
Some people don't know how to mute their microphone when maybe they should.
Yeah, for sure.
Awkward moments. But other than that, I thought it went really well. And
now I don't know the details of it. I'm sure you do, but there's an open meetings law where certain meetings have to be accessible to the public and recorded and everything. So how were you able to do the meeting remotely and comply with the open meetings law, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. So we did it through GoToMeetings, and we had we actually had a hearing. So we actually had a dial-in number for the public to be able to call in if they had questions. Mm-hmm. And so we managed it. We didn't have too many problems. It went fairly smoothly, and it surprisingly well. I was very nervous about how that was going to go. I mean, you always worry about limiting the access to the public in those kinds of scenarios.
Sure.
But it was taped. People can watch it after the fact. We're all accessible. We all have emails. There's a phone number you can call us. It worked out.
Did any members of the public call in or participate or use the technology?
No.
Not yet?
No.
I'm sure.
But we don't have a lot of, there's not a lot of people who go to our meetings anyway. Most people just watch them at home.
Okay. Interesting. It's kind of amazing because this technology's been around for a while, but now that we're all forced to use it, I think that it's really changing the way a lot of things work, business and, operating local government. Are you doing anything remotely in the senator's office that you weren't doing remotely before?
So there's everything. I mean, basically, I could always work from home, but I never had access to all of our files. And I was always just more careful because of, we've taken a lot of personal information because of the nature of the job. So they worked really hard in that first week. Our IT department was round the clock trying to get us up and running for everybody to go remote because we needed to have access to our files and they needed to be secure. And we take security very seriously in the Senate, and as we should. So we really wanted to make sure that once, we're actually not completely finished with that access. So there are certain files that I still I can't get to, but they're not ones that I need immediately, so.
Great. So my understanding for the chief of staff is that you do administration and management upwards for Senator Moore, and then you're also dealing directly with the constituents. Is that right?
Yep.
So tell me, what kind of issues are the constituents having? What have they reached out to you or to the senator for help or assistance or guidance on?
Yeah, so our issues on any given day range from childcare to healthcare to transportation. We've had issues with people trying to get death certificates. You name it, we pretty much deal with every single aspect. So once this sort of hit and places started shutting down, our biggest issue now is unemployment issue.
Yeah. So those are all really very significant. You know, what's really sad is the death certificates. It just makes me think of the people who lost someone and weren't able to have a ceremony. But like when people call you about healthcare, childcare, those types of things, what services are you able to provide, or what services are you able to connect them with? What types of things can the senators or the senators' offices do to help?
Sure. So there's a wide variety of things that we can do, and it really just depends on the situation and sort of how the person ended up in the situation they're in the first place. So like, for example, the death certificate, we have liaisons in all of our agencies. Each of the agencies in the administration has a legislative liaison that we deal with directly. And so when an issue comes in, we can send that inquiry off to them. They get back to us and give us feedback. We, sort of talk to the senator, decide how he wants to respond, and then we get back to the constituent with whatever answer we can come up with. And generally speaking, there's not a whole lot that we can't help with, but there are those times when, despite our best efforts, we just can't fix the situation.
Right. And how are you figuring this all out? Because it seems to me that this is so unprecedented. You couldn't possibly have been prepared for this. So did you have contingency plans in place for if something like this ever happened, or are you just kind of building your parachute as it happens?
A little bit of both, in that, we've had incidents in the past, when, I've been in the building for 25 years. So there aren't a whole lot of cases that come through the senator's office that I haven't seen at some point or touched the edges of at some point in time. But every now and then you get something completely brand new where you're starting from scratch. But, we've had, when the Boston Marathon bombings happened, our building was impacted in terms of people coming in and going. All the way back to when the Oklahoma bombings happened, we had people impacted in our building who had families. So over the years, we've sort of adjusted the way we work, the way what technology is available. When I first started, we didn't have the internet. We would literally take our letters out to the secretary and she would type them for us to mail. So the volumes increased for sure, and the access has absolutely increased for constituents. But most of the issues we're able to sort of get through. I think the biggest challenge for me is really us not all being together as a team, because we work very much as a team in our office. So I'm sort of everything sort of passes through me, from scheduling inquiries to legislative stuff to policy questions. So for us to not all be together, I'm not hearing what's happening in the office next to me, or people aren't sort of having those conversations on a day-to-day basis. We're trying to keep up with email and try to, keep everybody on their toes in terms of everybody being on the same page. I think that's probably the biggest challenge.
Sure. We actually have the same thing. What we do is every morning we start the day at 8:45 with a daily Zoom. We call it our daily huddle, and we go over challenges and goals for the day, try to finish it within 30 to 40 minutes. And, everybody leaves with a set of 3 things that have to be done. And, so it's kind of actually made us more connected as a team, because we don't necessarily talk together as a team.
Right.
But when you mentioned access, how can people access you if they don't know? Like, how can they reach out to your office or to the senator's office?
Sure. So the senator has a website you can go to. It's senatormikemore.com. So you can go to that, and there's an input form for constituents. You can call the office still. All the voicemails come to my email. So I get every message that comes through the office and I respond back, or I send the email off to the staff person it's for and they respond back.
I actually interviewed Mike Moore a week or 2 ago, and we were talking about a bill that he'd proposed for hazard pay, which he was, really excited and passionate about. And then it's since I talked to him, it passed. Can you tell us what was it like, or how did it feel to be part of, passing such a really great law for the first responders?
Right. So there's so many bills. I don't know if that one's completely done yet. I'll have to.
Oh, really?
Check. Yeah. I'll double check that and get back. I'll let you know for sure.
Yeah, that'd be great. I saw a press release about something about the hazard pay for first responders, and I assumed it was the one that we talked about. So maybe
to be perfectly honest, it has been a little bit like drinking from a fire hose the last couple of weeks with legislation.
I bet.
Because even just today, he got probably 8 to 10 requests to sign on to new legislation, all dealing with COVID. So the number of policy initiatives that have been put forth has been unbelievable, just because of the number of issues that have arisen as a result of it. I think what happened, our bill had its hearing. The legislative process is a pretty lengthy one. But you could be right.
I'm not sure now.
I could have missed something that happened in our office. God only knows.
It would be the first time today I've been wrong about something.
Me either. Not afraid to say that.
Let me ask you about this. I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but seeing in the news a lot of people are really getting antsy with the quarantine and when is it going to be over. And it seems like it's pretty good in Massachusetts. People seem to be, fairly calm compared to the things I'm seeing on TV. But how is it from your end? Are people reaching out? Are people anxious to get information about when the quarantine will be over, or when we'll start re-entry into the economy and stuff like that?
Yeah, they're starting to. We got a little bit of an uptick in the last couple of days of emails of that nature, wanting us to reopen. And I think the governor's decision to finally make that final decision to close schools until, for the rest of this school year.
Yeah.
And to not allow daycares to open until June 29th, I believe is the date. I think that sort of might have been the impetus to prompt people to start thinking maybe this isn't ending on May 4th, as they had thought. And it's definitely spurred some more discussion and more activity around that issue.
Yeah. Those must have been really difficult decisions to make.
I think it's easy to sort of sit on your couch and watch the news and think that you have all the information. But just looking at Governor Baker's face, honestly, it looks like it's eating him alive. So nobody in government wants people to be out of work. It's certainly not good for us. It's not good for the economy. But I think that whatever decisions he's making now, I think he's doing it with the best available information that he has in front of him. And so far, I think he's been doing a really good job. Yeah,
I was saying that to my wife earlier. I just can't think of one thing that I haven't necessarily always been a Baker supporter, but I certainly am now. But I just can't think of one thing that he could have done better. I know a lot of my friends are upset about the decision to not classify the gun stores as essential, but I won't open that can of worms with them.
Yeah,
we to get shut down tonight.
No, it's fine. I mean, we are in very close contact with Goal. Their executive director and I have a long history. So does the senator, and he's always been a strong supporter of Second Amendment rights. But
well, yeah, because you guys actually do the gun safety course once or twice a year for everybody.
Yes, he does. Yes,
yeah,
he does.
I'm nervous about that. You taught my wife how to shoot.
It's a great course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that those decisions are hard. What is essential, what isn't, and what makes sense to allow people to do. And I think the governor's approach, or at least the approach that he's stated he's going to take, is a cautious reopening and looking at ways that we can do so safely, so we don't create this second or third surge and end up with more death, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you really can't blame people for getting stressed out. It's their livelihoods, their bills, their businesses. I feel really bad for the seniors who are missing all their stuff. So you can certainly understand why people are stressed out. But I'm really glad I'm not the one who has to be making those decisions. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine he gets much sleep at night. And when you're privy to all of the information, like he is, he can't focus on one specific sector. He has to think about the greater good and the common good for everybody, not just, the healthy people walking around who feel like they can go back to work. He needs to think about the people who are the most vulnerable and how this is going to impact them. So it's not an easy decision.
Yeah, I mean, there's no simple right or wrong answer. It's not a math problem. And no matter what decision he makes, there's going to be people who are content, people who are discontent. It's a tough spot. It's a really tough spot.
Yeah. Well, I think as an elected official, you kind of go into these positions knowing that, if you're pleasing everybody, you're probably not doing a really good job.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm sure that he was ready to have a lot of rough and tumble moments, during his tenure. But nobody could have seen this one coming. Like, this is just wow.
This is like nothing I've ever experienced in government. There have been those little pings of sort of terrorism that have affected us and impacted us. 20 years ago, we didn't have tourniquet kits in our offices. We didn't have to worry about opening envelopes with potential anthrax in them. These are the things that we deal with now on a daily basis. The security, the level of security of people coming through. Our building gets visitors from all over the globe every day of the week. And this is an invisible enemy. It's not one that we can see. We don't, people are walking around without symptoms, so it's really hard to tell. You don't know if you're bringing it home to your families or not. So it presents a lot of unique challenges, and it hasn't really been showing a really good pattern yet, I don't think, from what I've been sort of seeing. Just this week alone, we had one town, we sort of watched those numbers, who went 3 or 4 days without having any new confirmed cases. And today, the number jumped by 37.
Wow.
So it's kind of all, the numbers are all over the place.
Yeah, it's so inconsistent. We could write books about what we don't know. What got me was over the weekend, I saw a Globe article where I think it was the Pine Street Inn. They tested everybody in the shelter, and half of the shelter tested positive, but none of them showed symptoms.
Yeah.
And that just really blew my mind, because on the one hand, people are saying, well, that just shows you that it's less lethal than we thought. And there's truth to that. But it's also like, there's all kinds of people who have no reason to know that they should be quarantined.
Right.
no reason to know that they should be taking extra precautions to protect others. It's just wild.
Yeah. And, I worry about the people, we have some restaurant owners in my town who are sick, and it's devastating. You want to stay open for your business, and yet, you're not going to have a business if you can't survive it. So, it's a delicate balance. And I think the governor's right for being cautious in how we move forward.
So I would imagine in government that typically when you hear from people, it's because they're stressed out or frustrated with something.
Yep.
What could people do to show their support or show their appreciation, or just kind of reach out and show you guys some love for all the extra work that you guys are doing to kind of guide us through all this?
Honestly, I can only speak for myself, but what I see of my staff and the senator's staff and the senator himself is that we love helping people. That's why we're in the business we're in. That is our goal. And so the best thing you can do is just say thank you. All we want to do is fix problems. And that's what our goal is to, sort of make government work for people the way we want people to have a positive outlook on government and see how government can help them. I've always said I'm a human services background, and I've always said that this job is the ultimate human services job in that we get to help individuals on a case-by-case basis, but we also get to fix things more globally by implementing good policy. And so the senator is great about that. And so I'm lucky to have a boss that I have.
Yeah, he's definitely awesome. Well, let me be the first one. Thank you. I know from what I've seen that you guys are working around the clock and dealing with a lot of incredibly complicated issues that no one's ever had to deal with before.
Yeah.
And hopefully a lot of other people will come on the post below and say thank you as well. So yeah, that's about all the questions that I have. Any last messages, anything that we should know, anything that you want to share with us on your behalf or on the senator's behalf?
Yeah, I would just say have patience. If you're calling for unemployment, these folks are working 7 days a week. Easter Sunday, they were responding to our emails. So just have patience with us. We're trying. I know it can be frustrating at times, but I think just everybody needs to be gentle and kind with each other right now, because everybody's got some aspect of their life that is being impacted by this pandemic that we're in the middle of. And hopefully we can all just come out nicer and kinder to each other on the other end.
That's just amazing. And I really thank you so much for doing this. It really humanizes, sometimes we think of the government and what's the government doing, and it really just humanizes it for me a lot. So thank you a lot for coming on here. And
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Good luck to you guys. Okay.
Thanks.